Hi, I'm Jessica.
I'm Emmalynn.
And in today's video, we are going to be wrapping it up for April. Because now it's gonna be May.
How?
I don't know.
I was at work and I had to write the date and I was like, 5?
Yeah, it's
No.
crazy.
Okay, we have the same amount, so it doesn't even matter who goes first because we're so in sync.
Yeah. Literally. Okay, I'll go first.
Okay.
The first book I read this month was The Bookshop on the Corner by Jenny Colgan. I've read a few other books by Jenny Colgan before, but this is a book that I've had on my shelf for a while and finally decided to pick it up, and boy was I glad that I did. It was adorable.
Now I can read
It was
Bookshop on the Shore.
Yeah, it was funny, it was endearing, it had a good atmosphere. This is set in Scotland, as most of her books are, I think, because I think she lives in Scotland, or part-time anyways. But this is the story of Nina, who is a book matcher, we'll say, and she prides herself in finding that perfect book for every person she comes across. And then her library that she works for closes, and she's like, what am I going to do with my life? So she decides to take her very large collection of books that she's been hoarding, and her roommate is like mad at her because all she does is hoard books to the point where she's afraid it's gonna like make them have structural damage. And she's like, hey, why don't you just have like a book van and, you know, sell books out of your van? So she wants to do that, and she starts pursuing that, and then realizes where she lives, which I think is, I don't know if she lives in London. I feel like she does.
I thought so.
But, like, it's really hard to get a permit to do that. And so she goes to Scotland to buy this van. And then when she gets there to buy the van, she realizes, oh, it would actually be a lot easier if I did this in Scotland. So then she pursues moving there. And she meets, like, a new group of people. And her landlord is, like, this crudgety farm guy. Anyways, it's really cute. I gave it 4 stars, and I will be moving on to the next one in the summer.
Okay, my first book I read digitally. It was on my April TBR. Was that one on your TBR?
Yes, it was.
Look at us go. And that is To Catch a Suitor by Sarah Adams. This was for my it was something to do with unrequited love. I don't remember what song it was for.
I forgot.
This is about Elizabeth and what is his name? Oliver. And they are like best friends. They've been friends since they were kids, but they have a thing for each other, and the other one is like absolutely determined, you know, that the other doesn't love them in that way. And so we follow Elizabeth as she's coming out into the season and is trying to find a husband, but really just wants it to be Oliver. And he has a lot of like past like family trauma too that he's trying to deal with before he feels like he can get married to someone he feels like he doesn't deserve her. And this is dual POV, which I really liked, and you can tell by the cover. It's a Regency romance on Kindle Unlimited.
A Tempest of Tea was for Vigilante, a book with a morally gray main character. And this book follows our main character named Arthie, who is kind of like the Casbrecker of this world that she lives in. And she runs a tea shop by day, but at night it turns into a tea shop, but like catered to vampires. So there's blood being served, but in like a ethical way, I guess we'll say. And then some things happen. She is like on the verge of losing her tea shop because the government or like police or whatever of this town is like always trying to like find her out and like ruin her business because they know she's doing things illegally, but they can't ever prove it. And so it finally happens where she's like on the brink of losing her tea shop, and then she gets like asked to do, you guessed it, a heist. And so she has to like get her ragtag crew, it literally says that, to help her pull off this heist. And so here's the thing. I really liked this book at the beginning because it was definitely giving me Six of Crows vibes, and I love Six of Crows. Always and forever. No mourners, no funerals. But, like, the way that this book tries to sell, I feel like it tries to sell it as a vampire book, but it's not really. Like, yes, there are a couple of vampire main characters, but that's not like that's not like a main plot line of the story. I did enjoy it. It just wasn't all I had hoped it would be, but it was still a fun time. There is some romance. There are some really likable characters. So if you're looking for something to give you Six of Crows vibes and you know it's not gonna like quite live up to that standard, I would say I would still recommend this because it was still a good time, but I would give it like a 3.5 probably. So yeah.
Okay, my next book I do physically own, but she's packed now, and that is Heartless Hunter.
Oh,
and this was also on my TBR for Enemies to Lovers.
We're doing good so far. We're doing good with our TBRs.
It was so good. It was so
I told you.
So this book follows Rune, who is a witch, and Gideon, who is a witch hunter. And this has like every trope you could ever think of. It's enemies to lovers, it's like forbidden romance, it's secret identity. It's almost fake dating because they're like dating each other, but like their feelings aren't into it. They're dating each other for information. And so she somehow for years has kept her identity as a witch a secret, and he's a witch hunter that begins to suspect her as the Crimson Moth, which is what the series is called. And the Crimson Moth is basically like some really powerful witch that's like saving these other witches before they're killed. So it's like a Robin Hood-esque identity. And the Crimson Moth is just a mystery, and so he begins to suspect Rune and like acts like he's gonna pursue her to try to get information out of her. And then she does the same for him because one of her friends is missing that is a witch, and she's trying to like get her out of his custody. So she tries to date him too. And it's just a good time. Don't read this if you don't like cliffhangers. Yeah. Read it when the next one comes out because I don't know how I'm supposed to wait till February.
It's not even like a cliffhanger. It's like you literally just walked off of a cliff.
Well, like,
and fell. It's like there's nothing to even really like leave hanging onto. It's just like you walked off the edge.
It's like you turn the page and you're like, oh, that was it.
Yeah. It's like the story was cut in half. It is. Okay, the next one was also on my TBR, and this was Last Great American Dynasty historical fiction. This is My Lady Jane. It has several authors, so I'm not going to read them all. But this is a retelling of Lady Jane Grey, and it says at the beginning of the book, let me find it, Part 1, in which we revive a bit of history, and then it says, like, somewhere in this, it says, like, Dear England, we're sorry what we're about to do to your history. But this was such a good time. So this is following Lady Jane Grey, who is the cousin to King Edward. And Jane is needing to marry someone to kind of help secure the royal lineage because Edward is very sick and like pretty much dying. And so he decides that he doesn't want like anyone else to inherit the crown but her. And so he has her marry this guy named Gifford, who wants to be called G because he doesn't like the name Gifford. But Gifford is an Ethian, which is someone who can, like, turn into animals. So there's this plot going on behind the scenes of maybe, like, she's wondering if not only is he an Ethian, but is he, like, wanting to steal the throne. There's some, like, political intrigue, sabotage things going on. It was just a really fun time. Like, you didn't have to, like, think really hard about what you were reading, but yet there was still some fantasy involved. There was some historical things, obviously. But I went ahead and bought the next one, which is about Jane Eyre, which I feel like I will love. But I really enjoyed this. I would give this probably 4 stars.
Okay, my next book was a reread, and I reread this via audiobook. I still haven't read the final book in this trilogy that came out this year. I don't know what I've been doing with my life because I loved this series. But I wanted to appreciate it to its fullest, so I'm re-listening to them. And this is, like I said, a trilogy, and we follow 2 characters, Tessa and her best friend Wes. And in this world, there's, like, a virus going on. If you have, like, really severe pandemic trauma, I wouldn't recommend reading this. They don't treat it like a pandemic, but there's a fever going on, and only these certain flower petals can make the medicine to heal people. And so, of course, we have this story of, like, the rich are hoarding it, they're charging too much, the richer you are, the more doses you get a day. And Tessa's like, actually, I don't think you need that many doses to stay healthy. Like, I think they're diluting it in the palace to save money, blah, blah, blah. So her and her friend Wes, in the middle of the night, they will, like, go and distribute medicine to people that can't afford it. And one day, Wes, she believes, has died, and she decides she's high-strung on grief and sneaks into the palace. And that's all I'm going to tell you.
That's all I'm going to tell you.
It's pretty funny. Honestly, like, I love the characters, and it doesn't feel that serious, and it doesn't feel, like, overly YA. My favorite character is Quint, if you read this. It's just, he's a little quirky side character, which is my favorite part of any fantasy book, honestly.
That's fair. Okay, the next book I read was not on my April TBR, but I just decided to go to Barnes & Noble and treat myself to 2 summary books to pick up. I saw this last summer and I should have bought it, but I didn't. But this is The Summer Seekers by Sarah Morgan. This book is so funny. And I realized something about my reading style or preference. I love books that have old people in them. I love it. It's so much fun.
That's valid.
And so this follows an elderly woman named Kathleen who is 80 years old. And in her younger years, she was on a traveling channel for, like, different travel destinations, and the show was called Summer Seekers. So she was gone a lot during her daughter's childhood because she was going to all these different destinations, and so therefore she was pretty absent from her daughter's life. So her daughter grew up to be, her daughter's name is Liza, she grew up to be this very, like, scheduled, routine, organized woman, and she doesn't really ever have fun or, like, let loose because she's kind of, like, trying to compensate for the lack of structure she had growing up. And then Kathleen, at the beginning of the book, someone breaks into her house And so Liza comes and is like all worried about her and is like, you need to move into assisted living. You shouldn't be in this big house alone by yourself. And Kathleen's like, no, actually, I'm going to go on a road trip. I want to drive across Route 66. And she lives in England. So she's going to fly to America and then drive across Route 66. And her daughter's like, well, who's going to drive you? You don't drive. And she's like, well, I'm going to hire a driver. So she like posts this ad for wanting someone to come and drive her across Route 66. And this girl named Martha answers the ad. And Martha is like, she just went through a divorce. She's living with her parents. Her mom is like terrible to her and always telling her how much of a failure she is in life and how she's like never going to amount to anything. And so Martha, like, answers the ad just because she wants to get out of her house so badly. And she's like, great, this will take up my whole summer. I don't have to be living with my parents. I don't care what it pays. Like, I just want to be out of my house. And so they go on this little road trip across Route 66. But then it also is following Liza back at home as she's realizing she is like at this place in her life where she's just given everything to her family and she doesn't really like have anything that she enjoys anymore. She used to paint and she gave up painting, and so she's like, who am I even more? Who am I even anymore? I've just like devoted my life to taking care of other people. So she's like back home going through her own journey while they're going on this little road trip. But it was just so cute. Kathleen is like the kind of elderly woman I hope I become when I'm older, and I just really enjoyed it. And there are a couple of her books on Kindle Unlimited, so if you're thinking about maybe checking her out, you could do it for free. And I would give this, I don't know, like there wasn't really anything I disliked about it. I would say maybe...
What was it, a 5-star feeling?
No, it was probably like a 4 1/4.
Okay, my next book is Funny Story by Emily Henry. This will be on, I know, a lot of people's wrap-ups, but this follows Daphne, who just got broken up with by her fiance like a few months before her wedding, I think. He like went on his bachelor trip, came back, and he was like, actually, I'm in love with my best friend. That's a girl. And then we follow Miles, who was dating that best friend. Is that making sense? Mm-hmm. It's very confusing at first. And so Daphne's ex-fiance, gets to their house and he's like, I'm going to go on a week-long vacation with, I can't even remember her name, for, a week in Italy. You have a week to move out because this is my house. And she's like, oh, great. Like, I've spent all this time relying on him. This is his house. Like, I just have a little job at the library. Like, how am I going to sustain myself? So she moves in with Miles because he also can't afford rent without his girlfriend living with him. So they're just like coexisting. They just like, eat ice cream and grieve their lives together. And then they become friends. And then there's so much going on in this book. It was such a good time. I mean, we have a main character that loves to read. Sold there. We have fake dating. We have Emily Henry. Sold. Obviously. And my favorite thing, honestly, was Daphne. I just really related to her, and I feel like everyone's favorite Emily Henry book is based on their favorite main character and who they relate to the most. But anyways.
I was just watching Haley Pham's video today, and now I'm trying to remember because it's driving me nuts. She said a lot of people compare this to a movie, and I can't think of what movie it is. So pause, because I want to figure this out. Maybe she says it at the beginning. New Girl.
Yeah.
The show
Everyone
New Girl.
says that Miles is like the main guy.
Yes. Nick.
Sure. I've never seen New Girl.
Yes. When she
So.
was describing it, because I've seen New Girl, I was like, yeah, that's... Because they both have a breakup. That's how Jess ends up coming to live with them. Her and her boyfriend break up. And then Nick had just had a breakup from his girlfriend as well. And they're both, like, nothing alike. She's very organized and kind of has her life together, and he's all over the place.
Then you should just read this, because that's what it is.
Yeah.
But I've never seen a single episode, so
he,
I don't know.
fails... He was going to law school, and then he just drops out, like, just for no reason. So, like...
Yeah, they, like, talk about how he's, like, a failure, and he has odd jobs, but really he just, like... He works at a winery, like, he just loves his chill job.
Yeah.
And, like, helps everyone around the town.
That's interesting. Now I'm very intrigued. I still have yet to read anything by Emily Henry. How crazy is that? I just don't know how. But Beach Read is on my May TBR. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
And he, like, is obsessed with Crocs.
Oh.
Which is, like, kind of an ick, but it's only talked about once.
Okay.
But, like, he has on Crocs in the cover. It's just funny.
Okay, the next book I picked up was not on my TBR again, but I put this on hold at the library, and it came in a lot faster than I thought it would, so I immediately picked it up. And this book was a wild ride. Let me tell you, this was more of a wild ride than the third book of A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, which I didn't think was possible. But this follows our main character, Belle, who apparently, like, everyone's like, oh, Holly Jackson has this thing where she only gives her main girl characters 3-letter names. Apparently, this is continuing the trend. B-E-L, Belle. We have Pip, and then we had Red in 5 Survives, so I guess it's her little quirky thing she does. But, so, when Belle was like 2 years old, her mom vanished, and now she's 18, and her dad has decided to do a documentary on the disappearance of her mom, Rachel Price. And so they are at the beginning of this book, like straight from the beginning, they're starting to film this documentary, and like just a couple days into filming this, her mom just reappears, like out of nowhere, which isn't a spoiler because it's called The Reappearance of Rachel Price. But, like, from the beginning, Belle doesn't, like, she thinks something's a little suspicious about, like, now her mom's just showing back up. And, like, so she kind of starts picking apart everything her mom is saying to the police, like, looking for any discrepancies with, like, what she's saying to her, what she's saying to police. And then it's also weird because, like, her dad doesn't really seem that happy that her mom is back. Like, he always is like, oh, I just wish I could, like, tell her I love her again, and I would, you know, like, he verbally talks about what he would do if she reappears, and then she does, and he, like, doesn't really seem to care. A lot of strife that her reappearance causes, and drama, and, like, things that hadn't been talked about are now being talked about because she's back. And it was almost like, I wouldn't say it was so outlandish, it was unrealistic, like, I wouldn't go that far, but it was very out there, like, what transpired.
She was trying so hard to make you not guess.
Yeah. Really enjoyed this. I've heard people say, I do agree that it was a little long. I mean, it's over 400 pages. I didn't ever feel like it was slow, though, or like there was anything that made me bored. And I would say Belle as a main character was kind of annoying because it's just like she's so, like, angry and mean towards everyone, and you're like, I get it. I mean, you've lived through some trauma. You've grown up without a mom, and now she's back. Like, that would be a lot to process. But it's like from the beginning, she's just kind of that way. And also, like, another thing that's a major ick for me in books is cussing just for the sake of cussing. Like, not saying any other cuss words, but just the F word. And that got on my nerves. So, honestly, like, where the story might have been a 5-star, like, and the plot and, like, all the twists and everything, her as a main character and, like, the usage of the F word and, like, just how unlikable of a main character she was would probably bump it down to, like, a 4.5 for me. That's just my opinion. As are all of the things I'm saying.
Okay, the next book I read was Famous for a Living. I just want you to look at this cover. What season do you think this is?
Spring. Flowers are blooming. Spring, summer.
Okay. I didn't read the back. On the back, it says, Cat's world shifts from the swirling haze of likes and comments to literal blizzards of frostbite temperatures and waist-deep snow. I didn't read that part. Okay, but if the cover is not matching, that is, like,
there's not even, like,
one of
snow in
the
the
things
mountains,
that
really.
makes me the most mad. Like, did you make
They're
it...
in, like, a meadow.
Yeah, like, did you make it look like this so that people would buy it thinking it's a summer romance? Which, like, I didn't care that it was set in the winter. Like, it didn't bother me, but I picked it for the prompt of a book set in, like, spring or summer, and I felt so stupid. But, like, look at it, the deer. I just don't understand. Like, she picked a bouquet, shawties in heels, and a sun hat. Like, I just don't get it. Anyways, this book is about Kat's partner has been accused of some serious financial crimes, and so to kind of get away from, like, all the media hate that's associated with her, she takes up her uncle's offer to go work with him at Canary National Park in Montana. And so she's going to, like, manage this social media account for them, try to get them some traffic because there's, like, this other not national park, but, like, this other park that's, like, just way more popular, and they're thinking of, like, defunding this national park and just, like, getting rid of some of the rangers and, like, their livelihood. And so they're trying to, like, stir up some traffic for the park. And I liked this story, but, like, all of my expectations were wrong. Like, on the back it says, like, a laugh-out-loud romantic comedy. And to me, this felt like a women's fiction, literary fiction, which, like, are all good things. But, like, just market a book correctly.
So it wasn't, did you think, like, it was funny at all?
Yeah, I mean, it was funny, but, like, the romance was not the focus of the story.
Yeah.
The focus of the story was, like, she's detaching from her life of social media. Like, that's not all she is. It's not all she's capable of. Like, she can try new things, reconnect with her family, like, get through her trauma of her actual family and, like, focus on her found family and having real friends, those kinds of things. And so, like, okay, you have the summary cover when on the back you say there's waist-deep snow. And then you have the, like, literary fiction and you say it's a laugh-out-loud romantic comedy of opposites attract and a romance that will melt readers' hearts. And I'm just not getting that. Like, the outside is not matching the inside. So I would recommend this, but take my word of what it's about. Don't go read the back. And let those be your expectations.
Okay. The last book I read for the month was The Cheat Sheet by Sarah Adams. As you know, or you may not know, if you don't know, we'll tell you, we are huge Sarah Adams stans. I will read, like, anything she writes from here until forevermore. But this is, like, probably the one that kind of, like, put her on the map because I feel like this one got the most, like, social media marketing or whatever. But this is the prequel to the rulebook, which just came out. And this follows a girl named Bree. And Bree is a ballerina teacher, or just a dance teacher in general. But she is best friends with a guy named Nathan, who is a quarterback for the NFL. And so a lot of people think this is YA, but they're definitely adults. And they have been best friends for, like, 7 years, and they've both been equally pining after the other one, but neither of them knows it. So it's, like, double unrequited love. And so they go out one night, I'm making sure this is on the back so I don't spoil it. They go out one night, she gets really drunk, and she is in the bathroom talking to this random lady in the bathroom, talking about how much she's in love with Nathan, and the lady is a TMZ reporter. And so she films it and then posts it on social media, and like one of the things she says in her her like rant to this random lady, she like had spilt something on her shirt, and she's like, I wish I had a Tide pen and I would blot out all the women in Nathan's life or something. So then Tide comes to them and they want them to like make a commercial for them.
That's so funny.
Then they have to pretend to be in a relationship for this commercial, and Bree doesn't really want to do it, but her dance studio is like in shambles and she's like running out of money, and Nathan has tons of money and she won't let him ever give her money. So they pretend to be in a relationship as a marketing scheme for this commercial. And then because they have to pretend to like each other, finally they're like put in situations that they weren't normally put in because they're both trying to avoid the fact that they have feelings for each other. But it was so cute. The ending, like what he does for her at the end. Like,
I didn't even know you liked it.
Like,
honestly.
Like,
you're getting the hype now?
He is like the standard for men. Like, he is the standard for men. What he does for her at the end, it's like it's like Mr. Darcy status. Like, it's way up
how
there.
Is this ranking with Practice Makes Perfect?
Because
that's my all-time favorite.
I don't know. It's just completely different because they're friends, so they're like.
There's not like banter.
There is banter.
But it's not the same.
It's not the same because they're very comfortable with each other, but then they're like treading into unfamiliar territory. But yeah.
Well, I guess I need to read it.
You need to read it. This has no spice. No spice at all. None whatsoever. So if you're looking for a clean romance, this is so good. Like, I was kind of not really feeling it at the beginning.
Yeah, and
but then like once they got to like I didn't know it was a fake dating situation. I didn't know we were gonna get there. Once they got there and they were like forced to kind of like face the realities of how they felt with each other. But I'm telling you, the ending, wow.
Okay.
What a man.
My final book is A Cross-Country Wedding by Courtney Walsh. I don't know what made me decide to read this. I literally just saw it like Kindle Unlimited recommendations. And this is the second book to A Cross-Country Christmas. And so in this book we follow Lauren from A Cross-Country Christmas. Her best friend. I literally never remember people's names because they're the most basic names. Her name's Addie. See, they call her, like, different things. Like, she has nicknames, so I was trying to think of her actual name. So it's Maddie and Simon, and this is dual POV. And there is nothing I love more than...
Oh, this is too. I forgot
reading,
to say
like,
that.
a guy's perspective on the girl, and, like, just...
It makes it go by so fast.
Absolutely, like, head over heels for her, and, like, being too kind in his brain to tell her.
Yeah.
And so this is, like... This is a friends to lovers. They've been best friends for 10 years. She thinks that, like, he's just too perfect for the, like, for her, for the world. Like, he's more of a, like, type A nerdy guy. Like, a lot of jokes in general just kind of go over his head, or he'll say something and everyone starts laughing. He'll be like, what? Like, what did I say? And then they just start laughing even harder. And she's, like, a free spirit, like, very artsy. And so she thinks that she just, like, simply doesn't deserve him because she thinks that he needs someone
like they're not
just as serious. Yeah. And so then she breaks up, her boyfriend breaks up with her, and she's like, Simon, you have to come on this road trip with me. Like, I don't want to go alone. And, like, who's better than my best friend to come with me? And Will and Lauren, the whole time, the couple from the last book, are like trying to convince Maddie that she likes Simon, and Simon to like confess his feelings for Maddie. And they like openly talk about it. Lauren will be like, oh my gosh, Maddie, like Simon's in love with you. You just need to do something already. Like, he doesn't deserve this. And so that's just so funny because it's realistic. Like, in real life, there's not that many secrets. Like, I wouldn't be able to keep anything in. And so, it was just really entertaining. They have, like, karaoke nights. They, like, get lost. It's just, a road trip book is always good. Mm-hmm. So, highly recommend. I read this in, like, 2 sittings. I read the whole thing on my phone. I was just... So, I would rate this because I was just, like, running on adrenaline and, like, serotonin, you know? So I'm like, oh, how good was it? I don't know. I really liked it.
I really liked it.
Editing me will put my rating because I just can't decide. So, yeah. That's all the books.
Overall, I would say it was a pretty good reading
month. It was a very much a quality over quantity. Yes. But we still read a good amount.
Let me know. I have a question for the for the audience. We have not watched Bridgerton.
Oh.
And there's a new season coming out. Now, I would watch it on VidAngel because I don't want to see all the sex scenes. But is it worth it? Is it... I mean, we love a good Regency story. But is it, like, a real Regency story? Or is it, like, contemporary?
I watched, like, the first episode.
So let us know if we should, like, catch up so we can watch the new season. If you want to. But, anyways, that's all we have. Hope you had a good reading month. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.